Well, welcome back all you witches and warlocks to our eternal winter planet in our frozen Necromancer village. Our sanctuary between the glaciers that we call home. The same one that shall be a shining light for all magic users and wielders, good and bad alike. We don't discriminate around these parts. We're currently working on the study of necromancy and the bare basics of how to improve our magical prowess and abilities. It would appear that we finished it. It looks like we should be able to consume a undead corpse that is currently alive because of our magic, and this will actually convert its soul into a crystal. Or what's left of its soul, I suppose. We'll be testing this out on Valentina. I think that he or she were one of the corpses that we found around the monolith. I don't remember, so that means it's okay to do because they're a nobody. Here we go. Well, that was fun, but more importantly, it was also effective, although I don't think I'm going to use this as my main way of getting crystals because I don't want to destroy my fighting force. These crystals are going to be quite crucial for our next research project, which is control expansion. Essentially, we're going to be finding out how I can increase my power to the point that I can control an entire undead army. It will be a slow process to build up to with a lot of training and studying, but eventually we will achieve it. In the meantime, we're also going to be planning out our city's walls and defenses. We need to try to encompass ourselves with some large sandstone walls. That way our enemies just can't waltz in anytime they feel like and attack us. And if they are going to attack us, we'll ensure that they have to come through how we want them to, right in the palm of our hands. But enough planning, let's begin putting these plans into action and properly starting some construction. Though this process is going to take quite a while, I don't think it'll be all that difficult to do. Now, sandstone isn't exactly ideal as a material for defensive walls, but it is the most abundant that we have in the area, as I've previously mentioned, so it's what we're going to be going with. I don't think defending the city is going to be that big of a problem, though. This is mostly just for our human enemies, those without any magical abilities or great big armies and weapons or mythical beasts or anything like that. And someone like that really wouldn't care if our walls are granite or sandstone. They would bust them down all the same. As we were working on this mega construction, we finished up that research into control expansion. Here's the thing, though. No one has ever controlled an undead army. This is a theoretical concept. These are uncharted waters, and we are going to be pushing the bounds and limits of my power. Meaning simply that I'll need to craft and cultivate my own theories to go about increasing this limit and to continue pushing it. And my studies are going to require some more crystals and also a little bit of human leather. Yeah, you heard me correctly. Let's see here. So, to become a more powerful necromancer, we must kill, gut, and ultimately skin another living conscious creature. Perhaps you can see why the Flame is keen on keeping it illegal. They're just a bunch of prudes. They don't have what it takes to conquer the world with an undead army. Not like me, as I'm going to start working on intermediate necromancy. It's time that I learn a little bit more about myself and what makes me unique. In the meantime, some of the Wood Elf visitors had told us of an Impid logging site cutting down sacred trees. They don't have enough men to send to fend them off, so they're hoping that we might be able to help them out. And you know what? I think we just might do that. I bet Impids might have the type of leather we're looking for. We're going to be sending Humps, our greatest undead warrior, and Moincow, our greatest undead mage. Between the two of them and their skills, I'm pretty sure they could kill an entire village of unarmed Impids. I think a couple armed ones logging at a camp shouldn't be much of an issue. I would send reinforcements with them, but I don't think they'll need it for one, as I mentioned. 2, we need them here to work on the wall, and 3, I don't want to send anyone like Pluto, because if she dies, this whole damn thing falls apart. Literally, because without Pluto, all of our undead would return to the dirt. Now then, they'll be traveling for a few more days. Back home, our donkey is starving, and I have just the solution. I can't believe I didn't do that ages ago. What's that? No, you silly goose, don't worry, we're going to bring him back to life. We can't live without our ass. You see, the reason that I killed him and resurrected him with my magical abilities is because now he doesn't have to eat. Not that him eating was a big problem, but it was just kinda getting on my nerves, you know what I mean? Now then, back to the action. It would appear that our traveling soldiers have arrived at the Impid logging camp. Just as we had thought, there's only two of them, one wielding a pathetic axe and the other wielding an even more pathetic flaming bow. Hump's old buddy, old pal, I do believe that this is going to be a piece of cake. Alright, let's get to murdering. First things first, I think I'm going to raise some demonic spirits from the bowels of the abyss to rip and tear them apart. That seemed to work pretty good. The other fella was pretty smart and decided to run right towards us. Actually, he might have been pretty dumb. A few lightning strikes from the old wand, and he was also down for the count. Alright then, now something you might not know about old Humps here. He's not only one of the greatest undead warriors that is, well, not alive, but you know what I mean. He's also quite the skinner. Ironic that we're also using their own wood from the sacred trees they've been cutting down to disembowel and butcher them. Absolutely diabolical, and I love it. I know what you're thinking, okay? Now the recipe calls for human leather. These are Impids. Yeah, tomato, potato, close enough, right? Probably. They had a lot of cheese here too, by the way. Not that that's important, but I bet it's gonna taste pretty good. Impid skin, cheese in hand, and some wood on our backs. I think it's time for us to head back home. Speaking of, as the two of them have been out on their little adventure, we have made some pretty significant progress to the walls all around the city, as you can see. It really helps to have a workforce that never sleeps, or eats, or goes to the bathroom, and can work 24/7. Now, you may also notice that we have quite a few different entranceways into the city, although only one of these is going to be open for attackers. That way we can channel them all and funnel them all through one area to be easily defeated, while the others are actually locked down with some slab doors that are going to be pretty impenetrable. Not really, but kinda. Finally, some time later, Moincow and Humps had made their way back home, unloading all their goodies that they got from their little adventure, including that Impid leather that we needed. We would string it up in Pluto's home, that way we could let it dry and we could start tanning it. The process of which can take quite a while though, so it's gonna be a hot minute, no pun intended, before we can actually get that leather and start making our theories to increase our power. While we wait on the production of our human leather, we are going to begin yet another construction project as well, centered with our city street. This is going to be a tavern. Every good city with any self-respect has one, and ours is going to be of grand size. Though our construction efforts would be halted when we were now being attacked by the Orange Pit Pact. Not associated with the Flame, but a bunch of filthy humans who hate necromancers and necromancy. Damn dirty bigots think that they can come and root us out? Yeah, I think not. Now, they are coming at us in two separate groups from two separate angles, so we are going to be splitting our forces into two separate groups to match their own. Moincow would lead many of our undead troops to the southeastern entrance, where she would then use her powers to easily and quickly destroy the threat. Meanwhile, in the northwestern section of the city, Pluto and the others would encounter the rest of the humans, who happened to be in much smaller numbers, were much more nimble and stronger. One of the fools was trying to make a break for it right through the middle of town, but luckily our undead husky caught him as well as our warriors, and then he was no more. The threat was over and nobody got hurt, except for our husky and many of our warriors, but you know, define hurt. They can't feel pain, they can't feel anything anymore. Obviously though, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try preventing them from taking a lot of damage, and you know, stripping these corpses and taking all their tainted apparel would be perfect. Trust me, they don't mind. Not only do they not care if apparel has been worn by a corpse, they themselves are corpses. You already knew that. Moving on. It's time that we get back to working on our brand new tavern, our first accommodating building. One of the first buildings, actually the first building in the entire city that isn't just for us, but is also going to be for the public and the surrounding areas like our allies, the wood elves, and maybe even some humans who are curious about necromancy and don't want to kill us. We're even going to be putting in some rooms that you can rent out. Every good tavern has them. It only makes sense. I think showing people hospitality is going to be quite important for their impression of us, our city, necromancy as a whole. We are going to be representing an entire group of people, necromancers, i.e., and other dangerous magical-like folks. These rooms are well furnished, well stocked, and even have windows so that people may look out into nature and our city as a whole. And these are actually from the Open the Windows mod, which has now been added to the mod list, which is also in the video description of every episode. I also want to say, I realize a tavern may seem a bit odd, but we can't win over public opinion if we don't first open ourselves up to the public, right? Besides, people would be more willing to side with the army and kingdom who has a dope-ass tavern with skeleton bartenders serving you 24/7 with their nimble, delicate, and bony hands, I think. Just me? Okay, but what about a name for the tavern? Well, I would ask you guys, but we already have a great name suggestion from our friend Alex Wolfie 9519, with the name being the Laughing Coffin. I'm a huge fan of this name. It's absolutely perfect, really fits the theme of what we're doing, and I think it encompasses just how wonderful of a place this is going to be, not only to open us up to the public, to let others see what we're like, but also a great place for other necromancers and powerful magical beings to sit and converse, enjoy meals and ale, and okay, I'll stop rambling, but I'm just daydreaming about how cool this is. Sometime later, we finish up our research into intermediate necromancy, giving us a bit more control and power that we can actually imbue into one of our undead if we so choose, something we might look at in the very near future. With that under our belts, we're going to start looking into necrotic healing, giving me the ability to heal any of our undead warriors as well. Our human and or impid leather has finally been tanned, also giving us the ability to begin constructing our theories of expansion. Finally, the very first has been created, and it's time for me to do a little bit of studying. It would seem that creating one of these and studying it will increase our ability to control the undead by 1. Now, this isn't too big of a deal because we only need jade and human leather to go about making these, of course, but it does mean that this is going to be a pretty tedious process and is going to take a while. And since we need to sew together many more of them, I suppose it's a good thing we have some fresh corpses to butcher. The members from the Pit Pact, as I recall, preserved by the freezing temperatures. Good news for the Impids, it looks like it's going to be a moment before we have to ransack another of their logging camps. We're also going to be stringing up their flesh in our tavern to be dried and tanned. We don't want people to get the wrong idea about who we are now, do we? I will say that it seems raising an undead army is going to be a little bit harder than I initially suspected, given the fact simply that it just takes so long to be able to increase our limitations, but that's quite alright, I suppose. We have plenty of learning to do in the meantime about becoming a leader, and also plenty of constructing and building for our city. At one point, though, we had a great big dire wolf coming to hunt one of our undead for its rotting flesh, and we ended up killing it with a spike trap, but this made me think. We might not be able to have an army of undead people and impids and elves and blah blah blah, but what about animals? Well, with the mana that we use to resurrect and control undead animals being separate from that of other living conscious creatures, we could theoretically raise an army of these undead beasts with very little trouble, with the hardest part really just being hunting down these animals or finding their corpses. Luckily, these temperatures preserve them. Yes, these bloodthirsty beasts are in pristine condition, and if nothing else, of course, our warriors could ride them into battle or use them as some type of attack hound, but for now, we'll have them guard the city entrance corpse until they're needed elsewhere during an attack or an uprising or whatever we need them for. By this point, we finished the research into necrotic healing, which was pretty sweet, and I also decided to give myself an undead champion, as we previously mentioned and learned with our intermediate necromancy, essentially making one of our undead minions much more strong and powerful and just much greater than they already are. And who better for this champion position than Humps himself? As I've mentioned in the previous 2 videos, I plan on giving him some type of special role in the army, though I'm not positive on that just yet, although it would seem I'm not the only one that's taken quite a liking to him as well. Alright, old friend, here we go. Humps, you are looking different. You haven't looked like this since I slaughtered you out in the snow that day. It would seem that my magic has even restored your flesh. You are looking dapper, lad. I think a thanks is in order. Maybe another time then. By this point, my friends, we have officially finished our walls around the city. And you know what? I think it's about damn time we gave this place and ourselves a name. We shall now be known as the Rotting Horde, and our city shall be called the Necropolis. Some wonderfully intimidating, despicable names that will surely strike fear into all those who hear it, and perhaps even a bit of inspiration into others. Incredible suggestions from our friends Jose Montalvo Melendez 5642 and our friend the Watchful Scribe. A huge thank you to both of you. These are some incredible names. As I mentioned, I absolutely love them, and a thank you to everyone who provided name suggestions. It was really hard to choose which were my favorites because they were all so damn good. And if you left some suggestions for names but didn't get chose this time, I actually will be using some of them for our keeps and perhaps some of our other facilities throughout the city. So if you're interested in having one of your suggestions chosen, please continue leaving comments and I'll be checking them out. Well, now the city not only has some amazing walls and buildings, but also amazing names. Nothing could go wrong. You knew that was going to happen. The Eternal Flame. I suppose we shouldn't be surprised we haven't been attacked by them this entire episode. We're kind of overdue. Though I must say that this attack seems a little bit different than the previous ones that we've been facing. Much stronger, much better equipped. They have somehow managed to tame an ancient troll and are going to use it to bash down our walls. An impressive feat. I wasn't even able to tame one after we killed it. They also seem to have brought an enslaved dark elf ice mage along with them. We'll try to free him if we can, but we can't just sacrifice any of our own or our mission to do so. First things first, we have our horde of undead animals attacking the troll, keeping it distracted so that we can focus on their other forces. They spotted Moin Cow, and it's almost as if they were already expecting her. They began trying to flee, scattering away from her abilities, and right into the loving arms of our fire mage, as well as our undead warriors' blades. We quickly finished off their knights and their marksmen, leaving nobody but their troll behind. Easy, big fella, easy! We just want to talk to you, and maybe sever one of your arteries so you can bleed to death. Well, there we are. We could have let this great big lumbering beast flee. I hardly doubt he could have told them what happened here today, but then we wouldn't get to consume his soul and corpse, and we just can't have that. It would also seem that our dark elfkin didn't quite make it on the battlefield and almost became leather for some of our studies. Such a shame we met like this, my friend. In another life we could have freed you from this squalor. But alas, even so, I'm afraid I cannot let you rest. The land of the living isn't quite finished with you yet. Hey, on the bright side, here's one way to look at things. At least now you'll be free. Well, sort of. I humbly welcome you to our merry band of magical rotting corpses. You are in good company. As for the Flames marksmen, unlucky enough to be alive after our little kerfuffle, we'll be selling them into slavery to the Wood Elves. Call it, divine justice, if you will. Or perhaps just call it the way of the world around these parts. Speaking of which, don't mind me, but I have a few animal corpses to resurrect and also a few souls and some flesh to consume. Yes, now I'm feeling rather satiated. Now that we've cleaned the place up a little bit, we are actually going to begin on some new research. Researching into magicite refining and thus going towards magical equipment. Really, the only reason for this is that there is some pretty sweet armor here that I'd like to have for my undead army, perhaps making some death knights. However, we do have a few prerequisites before that, so it'll be a moment. In the meantime, we also have plenty of dried and tanned human leathers, right just to be sewn together for our studies. We would also be using many of our enemies' corpses and some jade to create our own necromancy crystals, imbuing them with the powers of the damned. And obviously the crystals would be used to create more expansion pages, allowing us to further our knowledge and control of our undead minions. By this point, we ended up having 13. That's over double what we began with before we even started studying necromancy. A pretty big milestone, I'd say. Since we are now running a bit low on leathers and crystals and corpses, though, I think we should start making our primary focus working on the city again, at least for a little while. As you can see here, we are actually working on a masonry. Basically just a place to cut stone blocks and to make some clay bricks. Of course, our power is continuing to grow, as is our kingdom. We are expanding and building new structures and keeps and things like that. And all this is going to require a lot of resources. Of course, though, we're not putting research on the back burner as we're doing this, as we've recently finished magicite refining and we're jumping straight into arcane crafting. Perhaps magical equipment isn't so far off as we had thought. As we continue with our studies, though, we are also working on another new structure. Now, as I mentioned with the masonry, we are making resources and materials to build with, but where are we storing all these? Up until this point, we've actually been still using those holes that we dug in the ground in episode 1 for all of our storage needs for the most part. Today, no longer, as we are building a proper storage facility with an expansive array of shelves, which actually might need to be expanded again pretty soon, but as for now can hold all of our materials. As we were expanding the city, we ended up having our first group of wood elves coming to visit our city properly, and in our tavern, no less. Welcome friends, welcome to a place where your money is always good, and people of all magical proclivities are welcome, even you there, sir. As they were visiting, they told us of a new Eternal Flame stronghold not far from one of their villages. I suppose we're not the only ones expanding. That would explain where the recent raid of much higher strength came from. Right in our own backyard. I knew that the Queen wouldn't take kindly to us killing her most powerful and favorite elven slave, that being Moincow, for any of you that forgot. Well, I guess we'll just have to go and kill him, huh? Not right now, though. Are you crazy? I mean, look, we've made some incredible progress, but a stronghold? That's no tax collection settlement in the backwoods. That's the real deal. We're a little ways off from being able to take something like that on, but soon. Okay? I promise. Try not to be too sad, kiddo. Papa Rat's got a surprise for you. We have a slaver from the Wood Elves who is coming to visit now. You know what that means. We get to sell off those 2 marksmen from the flame that we captured, making ourselves a little bit of silver. And guess what? As a gesture of goodwill, they even had one of their elves join us. She is a beautiful ginger lady described as a unique individual. Who is she? This, my friends, is Helga, a gorgeous woman with an extraordinary talent. She is also a necromancer. Yeah, let that sink in for a moment. Oh, this just keeps getting better and better. See you later, friends.